Hey, Mama. I hope you're having a great day. I know some days can be hard. You're tired. You got this new little human that depends on you for everything. Today, we're going to talk about a sensitive subject, and that is postpartum depression. So, go ahead and get snuggled up and let's get started. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know down below. Share this with a woman if you think that there's someone out there that needs it. So before we get started, I'm Shannon. I'm a certified nurse midwife. I am so pleased to be able to talk to you ladies and educate you about these topics that I think a lot of times aren't really covered very well. And so without further ado, let's get started. Now, before we get started, talking about depression can be triggering for some women, and it's a sensitive subject. I want you to know you are not alone, and you are going to be okay. I've gone through postpartum depression myself after my first pregnancy, and it's a bad feeling. You feel like no one understands. You don't want to really speak up and say anything because you're scared you might be labeled as being crazy. You might be labeled as not loving your baby, not loving your family, and just being an overall terrible person. Let's talk about when postpartum depression starts. It is completely normal for the first 2 weeks of pregnancy or so to have something called the baby blues. It's during this time frame where your hormones are kind of stabilizing after the massive decrease after delivery of your baby. And during this time and lack of sleep, women can be tearful and just overly exhausted, irritable, variety of moods. This is completely normal. It's usually a very short-lived time and it begins to get better. If these symptoms last more than 2 weeks, we could be developing postpartum depression. With postpartum depression, some of the symptoms can be prolonged or regular episodes of crying, intense anxiety, a hard time bonding with the baby, distancing yourself from your partner, withdrawing from friends and family, lack of appetite or overeating, the inability to sleep or being able to do nothing but sleep, loss of enjoyment of things that used to bring you pleasure, feeling like you're not a good mom, that you're not doing things right, that your baby doesn't love you, hopelessness, guilt, shame. Some women even get such intense feelings where they start to have suicidal thoughts, thoughts of hurting other people, thoughts of hurting their babies. This is a medical emergency. Untreated postpartum depression can turn postpartum psychosis. Postpartum depression can also develop in your partner or spouse in the postpartum period because of them watching you struggle, of their sudden life changes and their sudden role change and the expectations that they're expected to meet. And it's hard to prepare for this during the pregnancy time frame, especially if you have no experience and this is your first time having a baby. Those at higher risk of developing postpartum depression for the partner are the young age new parents, the ones struggling financially, people with a history of anxiety or depression, relationship troubles. If there's already troubles in the relationship, bringing a new baby into it, not going to make a difference, and it's not going to help and potentially can make things worse. Don't be ashamed to ask for help because we have to support each other. We have to make sure that we're healthy and safe. You should seek help if you start to notice symptoms don't go away, after the baby blues should be gone. So around that 3 to 4 week mark, if you're not feeling better or you start feeling worse, call your OB or your midwife to follow up. At any time, if you have thoughts of hurting yourself, hurting your baby, hurting anyone else in the house, call 911 so that you can get help. If you are too ashamed to call 911, call your OB provider immediately so that they can get you in and get some kind of treatment, some kind of follow-up, some kind of referral going so that we can make sure that you're the healthiest you can be for your baby. If you're just not sure, if you're not sure about how you're feeling or what's going on, call your OB provider. They will be more than happy to get you in and take care of you and get you guided down that right path so that you can continue a healthy development relationship wise with your baby and your family. Are there any things that you can do before delivery to help prevent postpartum depression? You can't really prevent postpartum depression, but if you have a history of depression, if you have a history of anxiety, and you're on medication, make sure you're taking your medication correctly. Have a therapist lined up and in place or a psychiatrist prior to delivery. It can be difficult for women to get in with a therapist or psychiatrist quickly. So I try to get those appointments and those providers lined up before delivery, because if you have a history of depression and anxiety before delivery, you are more at risk for developing postpartum depression after delivery. So kind of being proactive about getting those things set up is going to be key. Healthy diet, make sure that you're resting. One thing that is imperative that some women just may not have, a great support system can mean all the difference in the world with your recovery after having a baby. Being able to separate and walk away from your baby long enough to go get some sleep, do some self-care, wash your hair, brush your teeth, put some makeup on, fix your hair. There are very different definitions women have about self-care. So whatever your definition is, kind of have that set up, have those things in place to help. Some causes of postpartum depression: have a previous history of depression and anxiety, that increases your risk for postpartum depression. Genetics: if you have a strong family history of depression, anxiety, then you may be more prone to developing either one of those. Changes in your body: the sudden drop of estrogen and progesterone after delivery make you feel sluggish and tired, on top of the physical demands of caring for someone who you've never met, that it's kind of like going on a first date and getting married same time. You think the person might be cute, little baby's kind of cute, but you don't know what you're getting. You don't know if you're going to have a colicky baby. You don't know if you're going to have just a fussy baby. You don't know if you're going to have a baby who reacts to their formula or, has reflux, any medical conditions that may have been diagnosed during pregnancy. So all of those things can influence postpartum depression and worsen the symptoms, even though, if it's something that was diagnosed in the pregnancy, you may have done all the education in the world, but nothing can completely prepare you for that real life education that you get when you bring that baby home from the hospital. Diagnosis, screening tools that can be done, EPDS screen postpartum can be done, and depending on your score can indicate the possibility of postpartum depression, the likelihood, or this young lady's got something going on and we need to be alert to it. And have the conversation with your provider, what treatment you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, at what point would you be comfortable with it, and just being proactive. You need to be heard and you need to speak up. And it goes back to developing that support system with having someone that can speak up for you if you're not willing to or if you don't see it. So just getting your significant other involved. If you're doing this as a single mom, follow up with your provider, talk to your provider, have these conversations ahead of time. Postpartum depression should be a conversation that happens before delivery and not just after delivery if it happens to develop. Treatments for postpartum depression with therapist, psychiatrist, talking about your feelings and where you're at. Sometimes that's all a woman needs is just somebody who's not in the situation to hear her. Another route is medication. They have antidepressants. There are newer medications that are on the market for women with severe depression. One would require inpatient, hospitalization. It's an IV medication. Then now there's a new oral treatment that is a 2-week treatment. The big thing about postpartum depression is speaking up, making sure, again, that you have that conversation with your support system, that you have the conversation with your provider, whether it be your OB, whether it be your midwife. If you don't have access to OB or midwife, primary care, talking to them, trying to be, if you are at more risk for developing postpartum depression, being proactive and getting those things in place before delivery happens. So that way you can kind of stay on top of it. And just know you're not alone, but you will get through it. I'm living proof. You can get through it and you're going to be okay. And there are many websites that women can go to and visit and hotline numbers that you can call if you need help or if you feel like you're going to harm yourself or anything like that. And I'll put those links below. And again, if you feel like this video is going to be helpful for a woman or someone that you know is going through this or for yourself, comment below, send me private messages. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you on the next video.